Thank you, Farooq, for that introduction. And it's my great pleasure. I have been here many times, and so to address people at the Bhavan is always a special honor and privilege. Today I'm talking about a new book of mine, which, if you are familiar with the journal Shraddha, this book has been serialized. Most of it was serialized in Shraddha. So if you are a regular reader of Shraddha, you've probably already come across this content. And so, in a way, today I will not go deep into the content, but I will talk about the context, the background to the Upanishads, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and my approach to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The talk has been titled Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in the light of Sri Aurobindo, and yes, indeed, my studies into the Upanishads have followed the thought or vision of Sri Aurobindo, the darshan of Sri Aurobindo, but that has been combined with contemporary thinking, history, because many things have come to light since the time that Sri Aurobindo had written, and how do we integrate that into our understanding today when we look at the Upanishads. So this is my approach, and today I will try to give a little bit of background related to that. So traditionally, as everybody is perhaps familiar, Upanishads are part of what is called Vedic literature. So when we use the term Veda, people think about a class of literature that follows from the Samhitas to the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, and the Upanishads. These are the four divisions of the Veda when we use the word Veda. So we know that these classes, Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads, compose Veda. And Veda is given another term, which is Shruti, which means that this is heard literature. In other words, there has been received knowledge that has been transmitted in the form of these texts or these compositions. And the division goes on to the Smriti, which is supposed to be the Puranas that follow later, and they are quote unquote remembered. Smriti, in other words, they are remembered, and they are, so to say, literature that has been compiled from other sources that are related to the Shruti. And this kind of an idea has also given us a sense of a certain sacrosanct quality to the Upanishads, and also to the entire body of what we are calling Veda. Most people don't even look at these texts. They are taken to be sacred knowledge. There again we have another division, which is the division of Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. So the Mimamsakas particularly take Karma Kanda as the Samhitas, and the Samhitas are then going to be used or thought of primarily in terms of practice. Vedas are translated into social rituals, and the performance of rituals constitutes the proper behavior, conduct towards the Samhitas, according to the knowledge of the Mimamsakas and even the Vedantins, who consider the Samhitas to be Karma Kanda. And then we have a division out into particularly the Upanishads that are called Jnana Kanda. So when Shankara uses the term Veda, for example, or even in a modern sense when somebody like Prabhupada uses the term Veda, they are not talking about the Samhitas at all. They are talking about Upanishads. So it has become reduced to Veda that can be talked about. you can't talk about Veda, the Samhitas, because that is considered Karma Kanda. Now, Sri Aurobindo, of course, has challenged that view because he has interpreted the Samhitas, and he has tried to say that the Upanishads are a later class of writing that is connected with the Samhitas, but it is connected in a very special way. If you even use the word Jnana Kanda, it is a certain type of approach, that evades the reduction into Karma Kanda. By Karma Kanda we mean ritual. It's not Karma Yoga. It's how do we turn these texts into rituals. That is Karma Kanda. So Jnana Kanda, you can interpret Jnana Kanda, you can interpret the Upanishads, and that's what the Vedantins have done. The Acharyas of Vedanta have created different schools based on interpretations of the Upanishads and saying that this is, I've interpreted the Veda, right? Because that is the aspect of Veda that they are calling interpretable. So if we look at it from that point of view, of course we know that we have different Vedas. We have 4 major Vedas, Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. They are connected with Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads, each one of them. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is connected to Yajur Veda. So the Yajur Veda itself has got 2 compilations. One is Shukla Yajur Veda and Krishna Yajur Veda. Those terms are related to, one is a more ordered, so to say, ordered compilation. That is the Shukla Yajur Veda. And that ordered compilation has got a Brahmana connected with it, which is really the largest and most complex Brahmana, which is Shatapatha Brahmana. And the last part of the Shatapatha Brahmana, the 14th Kanda of the Shatapatha Brahmana, is the Brihadaranyaka. That's the Aranyaka. And the last part of the Brihadaranyaka is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay, so this is how that the textual Veda of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is carried in tradition. Now, if you look at this whole thing from the viewpoint of modern understanding, which is historical understanding, which is again constantly being revised, you are making conjectures on history, on time. But even considering the conjectures that exist right now, we see that all these classes of text are not composed at the same time. They have differences in time, and then the historicity is also related to space, to geography. You see, because each of these is referring to spaces where they are written or where they are composed. I use the term written in a loose sense because a lot of them are not written. They are composed, they are oral texts. So we see that there is a certain kind of a drift that is taking place from west to east as these texts are being composed, from the Indus plain to the Gangetic plain, and finally right up to eastern India. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is making the maximum number of references to the Magadha Koshala region. See? So, which means we are moving right into our domain of India, so the eastern domain of India. So, earlier the chronology follows the Samhitas. The Rig Veda Samhita itself is the earliest. If we say that it goes back to 1500, circa roughly 1500 BCE, then we have to say that the Brahmanas come a good deal later. So even other Vedas like the Atharva Veda or all 3 Vedas, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharva Veda, spread over the period of the BC up to about 1200 BC or so. So from 1500, about 300 years, these Vedic Samhitas are being compiled. And it's very clear because if you look at the Samhitas, you find that these other Samhitas are large numbers of them are actually repetitions of the Rig Veda Samhitas. The same hymns are being repeated or they are being slightly modified and being represented. And each one of them has its own place. So Samaveda is for chanting purposes, and Yajurveda, Yaj Joggo, is for doing rituals. It's already a ritualized kind of approach to the Samhitas. Atharva Veda is the latest of the lot, and it has a large number of new hymns that are coming from new backgrounds. It's integrating new sources into itself. Now, this historicity is already giving us a sense of something that is going on, which is partly something having to do with the approach to the Samhitas. The fact that the Samhitas are now being chanted and now being used in rituals is the beginning of a socialization of the symbolism of the Samhitas. There is a symbolism to the Samhitas that the tradition is completely ignoring. Sri Aurobindo begins to look at it and say that yes, there is a symbolism, there's a message there. But that symbolism, when we use the word karma kanda, that is happening over this 300-year period, when by the time Yajurveda is becoming ritualized Veda, these particular hymns are being used in rituals that code for a certain symbolic society. Everything in that society is symbolically tied, bound to certain kinds of rituals. And the rituals are being carried out by a social order. Now, 10th book of the Rig Veda already is talking about the social order. But I'm not going to say that it is dictating the social order. We can't say that. We can only say it's talking about a certain divisioning of society. But the translation of that to society, to become a way by which people are divided into a certain kind of caste system, and even that caste system is gradually becoming more fixed from a more fluid condition. It's a more fluid condition. People can follow certain professions. There is a sense that people can be divided into a certain professional order that can gradually become more and more fixed to hereditary system. So this is happening over time. And then the other thing that is happening is that two of these so-called castes, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, are dominating the system. This is historically and sociologically happening across the world, not just in India. This is happening across the world. We look at Japan, we look at Europe. These two classes, the priesthood and the aristocracy, collude and they authorize each other. The priest says, by the mandate of God, you are the ruler. The ruler says, by the mandate of God, you are the elect of God. And they become two hereditary systems that collude to keep. This is, in fact, the state even now in places like Japan, etc. It has become less authoritative, but it exists. What is called the divine right of kingship is related to that. It is there everywhere. So it spreads, this idea spreads, and it's an idea by which society is structured. This kind of thing happens over time, and by the 1200 BC, this has happened. Now, a society that gradually becomes more and more organized according to a symbol has an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage, of course, is that wise people have created a symbol which has got a lot of mystical value to it. And if people follow it properly with a complete inner connection with what is being done, maybe there is some value to that society, a high value to that society. The negative of it is, of course, you are only a role. You don't have any individuality. You are following a role, and the roles are also decided. I mean, this is an even more fundamental thing than to say that some people are dominating other people. That is happening, no doubt. But more fundamental is, ontologically, you have lost your individuality. You are just somebody who is carrying out a certain function according to a symbol, a social symbol. So when people say that Buddha came in the 5th century BC and challenged this system, gave birth to a new philosophy, Buddhism, that leveled the idea of the caste system, I think that is a much later point in the game. Much earlier than that, within this system itself, revisioning is taking place. And that is the place of the Upanishads. So when we say that Upanishad is Veda, see, one obvious thing has to be understood, which is that people at that time, Sri Aurobindo has made the case that look at the names carefully, because people in an earlier phase, when we even use words like Ashwapati or Savitri, those names are significant. They have been given for us to contemplate, and they reveal what it is that they are talking about. So similarly, we find if we contemplate the word Upanishad, the word Upanishad means to sit near. See, to sit near. And sitting near is immediately a comment on truth, on the fact that we are not claiming to be the truth. We are claiming to be close to the truth. See? This closeness to the truth, intimacy to the truth, is already an indication of individuality. It means that somebody is giving you the right to have a knowledge of your own, a relational knowledge of the truth. See? The truth can come to everybody in a unique way, in an individual way. It's the same truth, and this is what the Veda is saying. But by the time we get this social ritual, that has been lost. So the Upanishad is a body of understanding, and particularly of language use, and that is the most important thing. That is breaking from the language use of the Veda. It is not that the difficult understanding, the difficult language of the Upanishad is something that is deliberately esoteric so that only a few people can understand it. And it is not that it requires people like Shankara and Madhavacharya and Vallabhacharya, etc., Ramanuja, to explain it to you. What it means is that this language is contemplative philosophy. Contemplative philosophy means you have to contemplate it. We don't need to look to other people to tell us what it means. That itself is a mistake. It is not a text to explain. It's not explanatory text. See, just very recently a very famous French philosopher has passed on. His name was Laruelle. Okay, so Laruelle created a branch of philosophy called non-philosophy. And non-philosophy is saying exactly this. Philosophy, when it is trying to explain reality, is creating a certain secondary reality. Rather, what philosophy ought to do is to point you to how you can make it your own experience, not a secondary reality that is explaining reality to you. That is what the Upanishads are doing, in my understanding. They are contemplative philosophy. That's the reason why they are esoteric. The language in the Upanishad is something which is not so easy to understand. You have to really focus on it, and you see, this kind of language ultimately continues in esoteric branches of mysticism, for example in Zen Buddhism, where you find the utilization of something called the koan. The koan is an example of contemplative philosophy. Why? Because the koan is not supposed to be explained. If you are told by a master what is the sound of one hand clapping, you're not supposed to come back and say, write an essay about what is the sound of one hand clapping. There is no answer to that question. The answer to that question is your experience of a reality that you cannot explain. That is the nature of the Upanishads. The Upanishads are asking you to contemplate words, sentences, ideas that cannot be explained but can be experienced. In other words, they go beyond the logic of the mind. They're going to what Sri Aurobindo calls the logic of the infinite. See, this is language that approaches the logic of the infinite. Now, saying that, I would like to move to this text, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I gave you an example of where it stands in the body of Vedic language, of Vedic texts, and it has been selected in an appropriate way, because when we say Yajur Veda, as I said, it has to do with Yagya, and to some extent, as I am myself pointing out, Upanishads are contesting the place of Yagya. See, this is happening throughout Upanishads, and ultimately this is coming to us also in the Gita, which boldly proclaims itself to be a Upanishad, though it isn't an Upanishad. It calls itself an Upanishad. The most famous, perhaps the most famous, popular and common hymn of the Upanishad, of the Gita, is Brahmarpanam Brahmahave Brahmagnav Brahmanahutam Brahmaeva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. What is this hymn, or what is this stanza? This stanza is exactly a reformulation of Yagya. Yagya is becoming yoga over here. So this is exactly what the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is trying to do, because, and that's why it's connected to Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda is about Yagya. And the protagonist of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also takes his name from the word Yagya. His name is Yagyavalkya. Some people say Yagyavalkya is the author of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Maybe. But whatever it is, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is dominated by the presence of one person, and that is Yagyavalkya. He's the Rishi, Yagyavalkya. Yagyavalkya, what does it mean? Yagya is ritual. And Valkya could very well mean bark. It's a kind of bark. Bark is something which burns easily. You put bark as the thing which will burn first. The bark of wood, dry bark, is the cinder which will catch fire first. So in a way, he represents the essence of the Yagya. He is, in a sense, the psychic aspiration of Yagya itself. This is how I see it. Yagyavalkya. So, Yagyavalkya is the dominant presence, but the text, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is divided into 3 kandas. So, just as I said, like, the Brahmanas are ritualizing the Samhitas. But from the Brahmanas, we find another class of texts are emerging, that are the Aranyakas. And as I said, last book of the Shukla Yajur Veda is the Brihadaranyaka. Aranyakas are these forest texts, Aranya, forest texts. And they are showing us a certain kind of an attitude of moving out of the ritual system. So people are contemplating, going into the forest and contemplating what is it that this is all about. So there's already a kind of a questioning of the ritual system. And the Upanishads are a next stage, because Aranyaka relates to individuals, wanderers, people who go out into the forest. Upanishad is relating to a new society, people who sit together, who sit close together. See, so these are societies at the periphery of the mainstream ritualized system, that are trying to look at that system and reformulate it for themselves, understand it in a new way. So we may say Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is going to look at Yagya in a new way. In a way, they are asking the question, what is Yagya? What is Yagya? And how are we to understand it individually? Does it relate to us? Does it become something that can be experienced, not just followed? See? So that is the center, as I see it, of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Now, what is the heart of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad? Sri Aurobindo started translating the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and he has a brilliant translation of the first Brahmana of the first Adhyaya. As any of you who have opened Kena and other Upanishads must have seen it. I have put that at the back of this book, that translation. I read from it. Dawn is the head of the horse sacrificial. The sun is his eye. His breath is the wind. His wide open mouth is fire. The master might universal. Time is the self of the horse sacrificial. Heaven is his back, and the mid-world his belly. Earth is his footing. The regions are his flanks, and the lesser regions their ribs. The seasons his members. The months and the half months are their joints. The days and nights are his standing place. The stars his bones, and the sky is his flesh, the flesh of his body. When he stretches himself, then it lightens. When he shakes his frame, then it thunders. When he urines, then it rains. Speech, verily, is the sound of him. So this is the first Brahmana of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in the translation. And this image of the horse, this cosmic image of the horse, that's why I have called the book Time Steps of the Cosmic Horse. This is the cosmic horse. This we have to understand first and foremost how it relates to Yagya. This is the beginning of the Ashwamedha Yagya. The Ashwamedha Yagya is the Yagya related to the state. So all Yagyas, the Yagya of the individuals related to births, marriage, becoming of age, death, the Yagyas related to the seasons, Yagyas related to communities, to professional castes, they are all contained under the umbrella of the state. And the state is governed by the Chakravartin. Who is the Chakravartin? Idea of the Chakravartin is the emperor. The word Chakravartin means he who turns the wheel. Chakravartate, the wheel is turning. What is the wheel that is turning? It's the power of the sun. The sun that has the power to make everything turn in its orbits in the sky. So this solar image is being replicated in society. As I said, we are now having a social symbol. The first step of that social symbol is to create a state, a Rajya Mandala, that will be the translation of the Surya Mandala. So in the Rajya Mandala, you will also have a Chakravartin. He is the sun on earth. And how will he show himself as the Chakravartin? Through a Yagya. Everything is done through Yagya. And this is the Ashwamedha Yagya. In the Ashwamedha Yagya, most of you know, it is talked about in the Mahabharata, for example. The horse is let out, and the horse travels for a year, samvatsara, 1 year. A year is a unit of time, a unit from birth to death. So it travels for a year, all the neighboring kingdoms, and if it is accepted by the neighbor and given honor, then that neighbor is accepting the right of the king who has sent that horse to be his lord. And in this way, if he completes the circle, he becomes the Chakravartin, because he is now the controller of the circle, the mandala. If there is challenge, then he fights, and if he wins the battle, then that continues to create the idea of the Chakravartin. This is the place of the horse. As we know, Sri Aurobindo points out that the central symbol of the Veda is the sun god. And the sun god is in a way embodied by two very important animals of that period, the cow and the horse. So you have the image of the cow, which is go, which also means light, and which is the wisdom aspect of the sun. Or you have the image of the Ashwa, which is the horse, and it carries the power aspect of the sun. In Secret of the Veda, Sri Aurobindo is talking about 4 aspects of the sun, the 4 kings. These are related to the 4 castes that we talked about in the later part of the Rig Veda. This is early, in 4th mandala, you start finding idea of the 4 kings. The 4 kings are Mitra, Varuna, Aryaman and Bhaga. See? So of these, the 2 really important ones are these 2. And as I said, in the social symbol, they become the colluding castes of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. Behind them are the images of the cow and the horse. The Upanishads, to some extent, particularly the Sri Aurobindo makes a comment, and actually in making that comment he is following Vivekananda, who already makes that comment, that it is the Kshatriyas that are writing these Upanishads. To some extent they are showing the fact that, this is what Plato calls the philosopher king, that it is possible for the philosopher, the king, to also be a philosopher, to be a knower of Brahman. This text is full of kings who are superior to Brahmans in the knowledge of Brahman, or Brahmans in the knowledge of Brahman. So we find that this idea of the horse is being privileged, it's prioritized. The image of the horse that makes the king into a Chakravartin. But this idea or this image is turned into an inner image. In other words, you are a Chakravartin not by dominating the society around you, but you are a Samrat by being a Swarat. This is a Vedic idea. Swarajya will make you a Samrajya. See? So that kind of an idea, what will constitute the operations of becoming a inner monarch, inner emperor, through understanding the nature of Yagya in the image of the Ashwamedha Yagya. What is the esoteric understanding of the Ashwamedha Yagya? This becomes the beginning, the very beginning of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and this is its central message. So this central message, again we have to go back to the Veda. As I said, everything is there in the Samhitas, in the Rig Veda Samhitas, but they have become esoteric and reduced to social symbols. So to open up the symbolism, that is what the Upanishads are trying to do, and to put it in a language where you cannot reduce it. That is why that is the motive behind the nature of the esoteric language. You cannot reduce it. You have to contemplate it, and at a certain point, it will mean something to you. See, so when we are saying that in the Veda this idea is already present, we have to see that the central idea of the Veda is a divisioning of reality into two zones. These two zones may be called, using modern language, heliocentric and geocentric. Now, heliocentric and geocentric means like this. Heliocentric means the way the sun looks at things. How does the sun look at things? You see, this is carried very famously in a very important mantra from the Rig Veda that is used at the beginning of most pujas in even our today's world. It is the mantra that goes, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya Diviva Chakshuratatam. This is the image of the sun, the helios, because everything in this is the image of the Chakravartin. Everything is, you can't, even if you move your head, you'll see the sun. You can move it 360 degrees, still you'll see the sun. All the time you'll see only the sun, because you are on the plane of the sun. This is the heliocentric plane. But if you are on another plane, on the geocentric plane where we live, there we are seeing that the sun is coming from the east and setting in the west. We have the dualities of day and night. We have moved into a geocentric plane. See? So we have two planes. The geocentric plane is dominated by cycles that are dualities of day and night, birth and death, things that begin, things that end. See? That is our reality. We experience time. That is what we understand by time. Time means something that is quantized. This is the reason why Buddha is saying time is the biggest problem. Time is the cause of suffering, because nothing remains constant. Anything you want to hold on to, that this is, I'm happy with this, it slips out of your hand, because it is dominated by the cycles of change. It is going to go away. So that is our reality, and it's a reality of suffering. But unlike Buddha, who says we have to get out of the reality of suffering by going to a zone where there is no time, these people are saying that there is another zone where there is the world of everlasting day. You know, in Savitri there is a canto about the everlasting day. Savitri refuses the everlasting day, because the idea is not to escape to the everlasting day, but the idea is to make the connection, to live the everlasting day, to live the heliocentric within the geocentric. So can we have the sun burning in us even in the night? Can we know the night to be nothing other than a face of the sun? In other words, is Yama nothing other than Surya? This is the question that they are asking and that they are answering. So Brihadaranyaka Upanishad begins with the image of the horse that I just read out, which is the heliocentric image of the horse. If you see that, what I read out, if you look at it closely, you'll find that right in the beginning, from the very first line, three gods are being privileged. The sun is the eye. So in first god that's privileged is Usha, dawn. Dawn is the head of the horse sacrificial. The sun is his eye, Surya, Chakshu. Then it's saying the wind is its breath, that is Vayu. And fire is its word from its mouth, Agni. So Surya, Vayu and Agni are the three major gods. And then they will talk about the body of the horse as composed of three strata. its legs are Prithvi, its belly is Antariksha, and its back is Deus. So, earth, midworld, and heaven. You see, or the world of matter, life, and mind, as Sri Aurobindo points out. These three zones, all three zones, and these three gods, they are operating in the geocentric realm, in the realm of day and night. But the horse contains it, so the horse is above it. It's inside the horse. So the horse is the helios, is the heliocentric idea. Within it, the geocentric is occurring. It recognizes the changes of time as its own changes. They are its time steps. That's why time steps of the cosmic horse. Now, so it begins with that description. The really interesting thing is, first it begins with that description and then it moves to the second Brahmana. It seems as if there's no relation between the two. The second Brahmana suddenly begins with a state of zero. It's almost like Savitri's symbol dawn. A fathomless zero occupied the world. Okay? It's beginning with the idea that there was nothing there. First, there is a horse. Next moment, there was nothing there. Oh, what is there then? Yes, something is there. There was death. Yama, death. Death, that is hunger. So already we find three things that are being equated. Void, nothingness. Suddenly from the horse there is nothingness. Secondly, an entity called death. In other words, something that can wipe out anything that exists. Something that can put an end to whatever appears. Phenomenology can be erased. The third thing is this hunger. So, nothingness, death, and hunger. How are they connected? It is the awakening, just like we find this again in the symbol dawn. I've made that point here. The symbol dawn begins with this image of a naught, of a zero. But then he says, insensibly something stirred. You know, a nameless idea or something like that. He says, something that knew not but wished to be, teased the inconscience to wake ignorance. This very powerful line, teased the inconscience to wake ignorance. So, there is an inconscience, there is a sense of no consciousness, of death, something that has taken all consciousness away. But within it, there is consciousness because there is ignorance. Ignorance is the beginning of consciousness. Ignorance awakes from inconscience. So, in a similar way, in this text, they are telling you that the nothing is a death that is hunger. What is hunger? Hunger is the consciousness of lack. I don't have. I'm hungry. I need food. See, Aitareya Upanishad also will tell you the gods enter into the human and then hunger and thirst enter with him. See, Khuda and Pipasha both enter with him, with the gods. So in the same way over here, hunger is present as death. And so there is already in the absence. So what is this absence? This absence is the ontological condition of the sacrifice of the divine horse. In other words, from the heliocentric realm, we have dropped into the geocentric realm. We have fallen into the nothingness. The sun has entered the darkness. The sun has entered the darkness, and in its entry of the darkness, it is experiencing itself first as a nothingness. Secondly, the consciousness that's in it is awakening as a hunger. That I was something, where am I? How can I get back what I was? So out of that condition, it is going to now start working. there is a sense of struggle to the cosmos. Everything is struggling all the time. Everything is working. What is the meaning of struggle? The meaning of struggle is exactly this: the hunger that is trying to remember its origin. So that is how the second Brahmana is going to take us from the image of the heliocentric horse to the image of the reconstitution of the horse and the rebirths of the horse and the distribution of the horse. Each one of us is the horse. We are all the horse. That horse has become everything in the world, including non-material. It's saying the Rig Veda, the Riks, the Sama, this, that, the other, they are nothing but that horse. So these multiplied entities of the world are all marked by death. They, like when Buddha has his battle with Mara says, "How dare you not respond to me? The world is mine. Everything in the world is my creation itself. Anything appears only by my will. As soon as I want, I pull it back. I kill it." So in a similar way, this second Brahmana is talking about that. And it's talking about the fact that death is that which masters everything, but there is a hunger within death itself. It is the hunger to overpass its own image of lack. And how will it do that? By the power of the word. And the word is the fire, Agni. So that is how you'll find the idea of the second Brahmana is going to tell you how death gives birth to the multiplication of the horse through its copulation with the word. And it creates a space of the various ways by which absence can be talked about, and out of that can emerge out of exceed itself, go beyond itself and find immortality. And when it does that, then it knows that death is nothing other than Surya itself. And that is, they will use a certain term, stanza to stanza. It will say, he who understands this will find this siddhi. He who understands this will find this siddhi. So it will go through a series of siddhis, and finally it will say, he who understands this will attain immortality. Now, he who understands this, that the term for that in this text is Ya eva Veda. Ya eva Veda. Okay, so this term Veda is being used here in a way, in a countercultural way, to point out this is the meaning of the word Veda, to know, not reading those samhitas in a chant-like fashion in some kind of ritual. I spoke about two Brahmanas. Maybe I'll touch on the third Brahmana, because the two Brahmanas are still talking about a cosmic image. The third Brahmana is making it individual. So the third Brahmana is very interesting. The third Brahmana is now taking these gods that we just talked about. You see, in the Aitareya Upanishad also, the gods are the senses. The gods are the faculties. So, and we saw the horse also is described like that. Eye of the horse is the sun god. The breath of the horse is Vayu, the wind god. The word of the horse is the Shabda is the Agni, is the fire god. So in this third Brahmana, we'll suddenly move. Each one of these is like a complete shift, but they're talking about the same thing. The third one is going to individualize it. It's going to take it into you. It's going to psychologize it. It will say, there was a battle between a contest between the gods and the demons, right? Who are the gods? The gods are the breath, the word, and instead of just the eye, it will talk about hearing, seeing, and thinking. See, so there are three now. You see, so each of them is related to a god. See, so seeing, hearing, and thinking. So 5. Breathing and saying, word. These 5 gather together, and you see, we saw in the second case, the second Brahmana, the whole aim is in the geocentric realm, how can we attain the heliocentric realm? In other words, how can I attain to immortality in a world marked by death? So the gods are saying, how can we overcome the gravitation of the demons, of the asuras? And how can we do it? They're saying they found a secret word. It's the pranava, the om. And if we can utter the om, then we will be able to go beyond the domination of the asuras, the domination of death. How can we do that? So they tell each other, you, O word, you are closest to the word. Why don't you utter the om and you will help us to go there? So the word tries, and the asuras infect the word so that the word becomes dual. It develops a good side and a bad side, a positive side and a negative side. Similarly, everything, all the faculties try. You find that the eyes try, you start seeing good and evil. Everything is infected by the demons into a duality. And as they're doing this, each one of them finds, and together they find they don't have the power to come to proper attainment of the Om. Note that in this parable, they're also referring to the whole attitude towards the karma kanda, which is, if we can utter the Vedic mantras properly, then we will attain to something. They're saying, no. You can try your best. It's not about that. So what happens? When they find that they can't attain to the proper pronunciation of the Om that will give them something that will take them beyond the demons, a new power arises in them. That is called the breath in the mouth. The breath in the mouth. Now, of course, you could say that the word is coming from the mouth, there is a breath in the mouth. This breath is a secret breath. It is a breath that is deep inside somewhere. From deep inside the cavern of the mouth it comes out. And when it utters the Om, then the demons throw their power at it. But their power gets shattered. And the gods are taken beyond into the third realm. And from the third realm to the fourth realm. So there we find these people, these faculties are wondering, who is this? Suddenly, who is this? The Upanishad will say, it is Angirasa Ayasya. Who is Angirasa Ayasya? From where did he come? And as per the esoteric way of writing of the Upanishad, they will not tell you what it is. But they say to this being, Angirasa Ayasya, who are you? And they say, Angirasa Ayasya says, look at yourselves. And they say, again, it's a Upanishadic play with the word Angirasa. It says, Angirasa, you are the rasa of each anga. Every one of these faculties is an anga, one of the angas that make up our constitution. And the rasa, or the essence of the anga, is the angirasa. In other words, that which is the essence of each of our senses, our faculties. The common essence. What is the common essence? It is the psychic element in us. The psychic element, which is at the heart of the entire being, is the essence of each of its parts. And that is what has emerged. Now, the interesting thing is, if you go to Secret of the Veda, Sri Aurobindo has an entire chapter about Angirasa Ayasya. This chapter is about a certain Yagya conducted by 9 rishis called the Nabagva. The Nabagva are conducting a ritual that is supposed to take 10 months. And they do 9 months. Each one is doing a ritual for 1 month. They complete 9 months, but they cannot conclude the 10th month. And at that point, this distant person suddenly appears. He is a Dasagva, and his name is Angirasa Ayasya. And he is the one who helps them to cross the 10th month and attain to Swar. Sri Aurobindo is saying this is the supermind. So that is the psychic element that can take us beyond the geocentric realm into the heliocentric realm, which is nothing other than the supermind. And that is what that third Brahmana is about. I think I will stop over here, and if you have questions or comments related to my presentation.
Whoever, it should be very brief, and it should be today's talk.
Yes.
No comment. Just put your question, please.
Question is this. Here, you have said that plurality of interpretations.
Yes.
In plurality of interpretations, one particular concept lurks in my mind. That is a positional objectivity. I can interpret the entire thing through my positions. Okay. So, is this plurality, is positional objectivity? Are they interrelated first, or are they directing us towards some compilations of all these things? Is it compilation? That's my question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, yes, it's a very good question. Upanishad is promoting pluralism of interpretations. That is the very meaning of the word Upanishad. It is saying, form an intimate relationship with me. The idea is that just as the Veda is saying ekam sat vipra bahuda badanti, it is saying that the truth is infinite. But if you contact the truth, what you're going to come out with may sound very different from what somebody else is saying. But if they've also contacted the truth, they will recognize the fact that you're talking about another aspect of the same thing. So to discover the paradox of unity and plurality, where monism is equal to pluralism, that is the heliocentric plane. Now, your other part to your question is also important. Is it about a compilation? Yes, it is also about a compilation, because the first answer is to find that plane which is one and many at the same time. But the second level is, how can we gather them together to form something that is not complete, it's never complete, but which gives us as many sides as possible to the truth. So that is also important.
One thing I noticed, we have talked about Buddhism, how it can differentiate the philosophy of Buddha or Buddha in Sarani or elsewhere. That I want to keep it. I'm quite ignorant of
No, sure.
And second question is that also I will whatever you say, is it a state of consciousness to higher consciousness? That I,
Please repeat second question.
consciousness to higher consciousness.
Yes. Oh, okay, yes. So, to your first question, Buddha is taking a new kind of approach to bring Vedantic truth to the people. See, Vedanta is starting with the premise, Ananda is the supreme, Ananda is what has made the universe, everything disappears into Ananda. Ananda is the principal idea of the Upanishads. Buddha is seeing that if you go to the common person and tell them that Ananda is the supreme, etc., they are leading a sorrowful life. Most people are caught in the bondage of the social system. Or even if not the social system, life is hard at that time. So he is inverting the idea and saying, look at your life, look at the empirical reality of your life. It is suffering. How can you get out of the suffering? So he is not giving us metaphysical ideas. He is just telling us how can we actually get out of this bondage to the circles or cycles of time, of impermanence. And then what you will find is up to you. So it will not tell you what is there. It is a practical approach. But its limitation is that thereby you don't know what is on the other side. See? So it is limiting, I would say, from that point of view. Now to the other question about from one consciousness to a higher consciousness, yes, of course, when I talk about the heliocentric and the geocentric, our normal experience, the geocentric experience, is a experience that is limited by ignorance. See, this is ignorance with a capital I, avidya. So it is from moving from avidya to vidya is a movement from a lower consciousness to a higher consciousness. So that is exactly what they are trying to do.
I think one last question.
This concept of psyche is kind of indicated in the Upanishad, fairly ancient. I mean, how is it that this concept is somehow disappeared in the Indian tradition prior to Sarani? Great sayings and speakers have gone through it, and how is it this was missed and never highlighted?
Yes, I think it's due to some of the trends in Indian spiritual thought that happened during the medieval period, you see. So it is very clearly there, but I wouldn't say, like, as I explained, it's actually very esoteric. You know, the thing is, as I feel, this is, as I pointed out, this is contemplative philosophy. It's inviting you to have a personal and intimate engagement with the ideas that it is talking about. What happens in India is that the interpretations of these texts become dominated by the acharyas. So Shankara gives a certain view, Ramanuja gives a certain view, etc. Most of them are world negating. You see, they are not giving you a way of actually living a life in the world, and really the tantrics are doing that, but to some extent only. You know, to a large extent they are also taking you out of existence. So people are not developing independent relationship with these texts. They are looking at it. Even today, if you say, I came across a commentary on Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they will ask you, is it based on Shankara or Ramanuja or something? We have lost a direct contact with the texts. It's as if we have to look at it through the filter of these acharyas. So that kind of new sacredness entered into Indian spiritual thought, and that has erased or made absent a lot of the ideas that are present over here that have not been given by the later philosophers.
I think we should
Until
stop.
Sri Aurobindo has revived some of these ideas. Then you see it's so obvious. Yeah, the obviousness strikes your eye, but others haven't talked about it, so you say, well, I don't know whether it's there.
I think we stop here. Thank you very much, Debashish, for an excellent talk.
Now I have a few copies of the book. If anybody is interested, the book has just come out. It is not yet properly in the market. You can buy it in Delhi. It's DK Print World, and it's a little costly. So since I get authors discount, it is actually available for 1,100. But with my discount, you can buy it for 600 rupees. If you are interested, I have a few copies over here.
Okay, then we'll end it. 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 Okay, then we'll end it.